I wanted to talk Oregon, Penn State. We had Adam Rittenberg on yesterday.
Yes, we did.
I didn't know where he was going to go with the Oregon, Penn State game, as many are saying game of the year potential. We had talked about it before we talked to him, and I know it's a lot about Oregon's rush defense. I just keep looking at the numbers, and I'm like, I think this is going to be more based on the pass protection and the rush attack of Penn State's defense against Oregon's offensive line.
Very well could be.
Maybe more so than even the defensive line of Oregon against the running attack of Penn State, but we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Well,
So,
to your point, Oregon gave up 297 rushing yards in the Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
And how did they do in the game?
right.
They won it.
They won.
So.
If Dante has time to pass, I know we have questions about who's the number one. Like, I think he'll be able to find guys.
Yeah.
So here's some numbers from Ben Stevens,
Ooh.
who covers the Big Ten. Penn State is 11-6 in full wideout games.
Okay. They haven't played a big team in a wideout game in a while. They've been really pissed off about that.
Second ever top 10 wideout.
Yeah.
OSU in 2018.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds right.
Penn State is 4-20 against the AP top 10 teams with James Franklin. 2-17 against Big Ten AP top 10 teams.
Yeah.
Both of those wins, by the way, in the 19 games came in 2016.
So they're both in one season a decade ago.
And Oregon, this is an interesting note.
Ooh, what do you got?
1-3 straight up against the spread as a dog with Dan Lanning. They are 3.5-point underdogs.
I'm trying to think of the times they've been a dog. The Georgia game, definitely a dog.
Correctamundo.
I'm assuming the Rose Bowl last year they were a slight underdog against Ohio State.
Correctamundo.
What would the third one have been? The first Washington game, were they an underdog in that game in Seattle?
Believe
Because the Pac-12 title game, they were a 10-point favorite.
I thought they were a 3-point favorite at Husky Stadium, but it might
There's
have
got
been.
to be a third one in there somewhere.
It might have been the Husky game.
Right.
So I went and looked at the schedule, and I don't think there's an argument here. This is far and away, if we're not counting Georgia, okay, because it was neutral site, this is easily the biggest road game of Dan Lanning's Oregon career.
Yeah, I mean, the Husky ones were pretty big. The Husky one 2 years ago was a pretty big deal. I think that was the first time the two teams were ever ranked in the top 5, and I hate that program with a passion, a deep-rooted passion.
Well, this is an opportunity for him to have his first great road win as the head coach of Oregon.
Without a doubt. It would be a massive road win for him to be able to pull it off. I also think it's funny, like, when you mentioned some of these numbers on the other side of it, like, I was thinking about this last night. There is so much pressure on Penn State side, and not that there's not any pressure on Oregon. There's always pressure when you play in a big game, and if Oregon loses, especially if they lose by a couple of scores, like, of course, the conversation on Monday will be exactly what we think the conversation will be on Monday if they lose by, 38-21 score, and it's never really that close. Penn State has not beaten a top 5 team in 10 years. Dan Lanning beat 2 of them last year. Penn State was one of them. He won the Big Ten, beating Penn State to do it, and he beat Ohio State, who was ranked, number 2 or 3 or whatever it was at the time, when they were able to knock him off. Being 4-20 against top 5 or top 10 opponents in your career as a head coach, there is a sense of urgency on their side. And it was funny to listen to Pate talk about it last night in previewing the game of, he basically boiled it down to, they have to win this game. They have to. They have been begging for a big game in the whiteout, because last year, remember who their whiteout game was against?
I don't.
The whiteout game was against Washington last year because the Ohio State game got selected as a big nooner, and they were pissed because they wanted it to be a night game and a whiteout. So they haven't had one of these whiteout games in a top 5 matchup, to your point, in a very long time since Ohio State was there, 7, 8 years ago. It's been a long time. They brought all their guys back. They were the favorite coming in. They don't have a great track record against top 5 opponents under James Franklin. That's been the biggest monkey on his back. Remember the fan reaction when they lost at home to Ohio State last year, and what they were yelling at him running off the field and the questions he had to answer. So, of course, there's pressure that exists on both sides, but there is a lot of heat on their side of, like, you got to win this game.
You know what? I've seen this narrative, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, but what I would say is I actually think both points can be accurate, and how you weigh that, I'm not going to make anybody weigh things however they don't want to. Penn State doesn't largely beat the most amazing teams. That's kind of the James Franklin era is how I would describe it. Oregon has a little bit of this for people outside of this bubble, and that's 100% factual.
Sure. Not to the level of Penn State, though.
No, but they were undefeated last year and got absolutely obliterated in the Rose Bowl, they're coming in now, and I know the underdog thing kind of plays, but it also kind of doesn't because they're still pretty high ranked. They're pretty high thought of analytically. And so, yeah, they're going to go on the road, and if they lose, we're going to say, well, it's a tough place to win. There's no doubt. We got to wait for context. James Franklin has pressure. I also think there is a huge portion of college football fans that view Dan Lanning and the Ducks under some form of pressure of can you win that game?
Oh, every big program has pressure in every big game. Like that's not. I'm not trying to say Oregon's skating in here without.
No,
any
but
heat
I
on them or
do feel
pressure.
like it's becoming a local-ish narrative of like there's all the pressure on just Penn State, and if Oregon loses, so what? And I don't think that's how the rest of the landscape is going to be.
It will not be so what. There's no way anybody's going to say so what. But the other part of this reality is who does Penn State still have to play this year?
Ohio State.
They have to go on the road and play Ohio State.
Yeah.
And if they lose at home to Oregon, and then they have to go on the road to Penn State, I don't think anybody's going to pick them to win that game based on their track record against Ohio State. And so you're looking at a 10-2 season with 2 conference losses and likely no conference title game appearance, and that would be a disaster for them. This is the year that they've built for. They brought everybody back. Their quarterback's back. Their running backs are back. They got the wide receivers. They got the defense. This is their year. They were the favorite coming into the season.
I think the tough part of this, too, is like whether you dive into the pressure of what coach is under the microscope of the college football world for this game. The unfortunate nature, and I'm saying that as a pro-expansionist here, the unfortunate nature is either one can lose and season's not over.
It doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things for
that's,
either team.
But that's kind of what I'm saying, though, is like I think Franklin absolutely has more. I also think Oregon and Lanning have it, but it kind of doesn't matter regardless because Penn State could still end up losing to Ohio State, and Oregon can still trip up one more time, and both will be in the playoffs.
Yes, they will.
And that's kind of my point.
And I would point to, look, the Lanning stuff, there's no doubt there's noise on him, and the Rose Bowl was ugly. I don't disagree with any of that. James Franklin has been at Penn State since 2014.
Yeah, those numbers I gave you are pretty grim.
He has beaten 4 top 10 teams since 2014. Dan Lanning beat 2 of them in the top 5 last year.
His 2 top...
Including James Franklin and Penn State in the Big Ten title game.
His 2 in the Big Ten in the 19 games he's had came in 2016.
Yes.
It's almost 2026.
So that's where it's like, I get it. I know that Monday people will say, what's wrong with Lanning? And can't, like, I understand what the narrative will be. These 2 things are not comparable. They're just not. This guy's been there a decade. He hasn't beaten a top 5 or top 10 team in a decade. What was the best win that they had last year? Boise State?
Regular season? I'd have to think about that.
Who was their best win last year? Go ahead.
It would have been the playoff game.
Okay. Boise State was their best win? Who else beat Boise State last year?
Oregon.
These 2 things are not the same. I think the pressure is 85-15 from
85-15
from a non-bias angle, from the look of the country at this game, for how long he's been there and everything that they had coming back. I think it's 85-15 on Penn State.
We can get back into this, the pressure cooker of Oregon and Penn State in the whiteout game this weekend. It's got juice, man. I'm pretty excited for this game to see how it's all going to shake out.